I thought they were there to help you get over the big loss. What was it, 4210 or something like that? You know? All right, Madam Secretary, are we ready to proceed?
Hang on one second. It's
okay.
A little slowly today.
I thought they were there to the big loss. What was it, 4210?
You win today. I'm about out of there.
That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to say anything else about the loss.
But your day too shall come.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're all set, Judge.
All right, excellent. All right, welcome to the monthly meeting of the Circuit 17 Juvenile Justice Advisory Board. What I'm going to do is ask Madam Secretary, we should have a quorum. We have a quorum. I think
yes, we do.
Okay, great, excellent. All right, at this time, I'm going to allow you to self-introduce so that the individuals who are watching us in this meeting will know who we are. I'll start with myself. My name is Alona Holmes, and I'm a retired circuit judge, and I chair this board, and I'm a life member of the NAACP.
Michael Bell, President and CEO of Community-Based Connection.
Colonel David Holmes, Executive Director for the Department of Law Enforcement, Broward County Sheriff's Office.
Paula Phillips, DJJ Advisory.
Carlos Rebolo, I am a circuit court judge and sitting in the Juvenile Delinquency Division.
Gordon Weeks, public defender, also a vice chair of the Jack Advisory Board.
Victor London, Fort Lauderdale Police Department.
Wait, isn't that a new title? Do we got to tell everybody and wish you congratulations?
Assistant Chief Victor London, Fort Lauderdale.
Congratulations.
Excellent. Congratulations. All right.
Congratulations. Well deserved. Well deserved.
You know whose name I'm going to be using if somebody stops me in Fort
All the time.
Thank you,
congratulations. Okay. No longer major, assistant chief. Okay.
Well
excellent.
Deserved.
Congratulations. Now, we do see Mr. Bush's name on the screen, but he is also attending the SIM program put on by DJJ. So he did send me an email, and Madam Secretary, I did forward all of the emails to you of those who said they could not be present because of the SIM. And so to the extent that I can excuse their absences, they have been excused because I don't want to mess with the DJJ function.
Well, those guys are not they're
not on the board.
So, other than them able to not provide the information.
That's what I'm getting to. Right. Yeah. So thank you.
I did talk to Mr. Walters, and I'm Marsha Ellison, President, NAACP, Secretary of this DJJ CAB. I did talk to Mr. Walters, and he was having trouble with his computer, couldn't get the link. I sent it, but then he was resting, and so if he gets an opportunity, he'll get on. Also, Yolanda Brown, the same. She's had something going on at the courthouse, but she will hop on as soon as she can.
All right, excellent. All right, thank you. All right, last time we were on last month, we did not have a quorum, and we did not conduct business, but we did speak on matters of concern to the CAB, and so that recording has been uploaded to the site so you can look at it, but we took no votes. So there really aren't minutes to approve because we transacted no business, but please take a look, if you will, go back and take a look at the video to see what we need to do. But I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda that we have for today. I'm sorry, you moved to do what? Well, you can't really so move.
Madam Chair, move approval of today's agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second that.
I'm enforcing Robert's rules of order to the extent that I can. All right, who seconded for the record? Mr. Weeks did. All right, thank you. Please remember to turn your cell phones either down or off so that they don't go off and interrupt the business of the board. Please raise your hand or do the hand signal from your computers to be recognized. And if I miss you, it's not an oversight. It's just I'm trying to think and watch the screen at the same time. So you can interject and say you skipped me. You didn't get my hands up. So that doesn't bother me at all when you do that. I'm going to ask that you remember to speak for 3 minutes or less when you're responding to something that's said, but if you're presenting, that 3-minute limit does not apply to you because we want you to get your report fully out to the board. Please respect all the opinions and the viewpoints of members of the board, and please address each other respectfully. I'm going to go into the chair's report. I was hoping that before this meeting this month that I would have had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Licata and get, a feel as to how he's going to do, and he's still in his transition period with the school board. So hopefully before the next meeting, I will have had an opportunity to meet with him and speak with him, and I'll give you a better report on that. So that's my report, and we'll move on to Colonel Holmes and Mr. Obel. I kind of want to keep a running tab as to how you're going with the Deerfield Beach. I call it the experiment in Deerfield Beach, and hopefully we can branch out to other cities. Colonel?
Good afternoon, board. Unfortunately, I've been out for the past week and a half. I had a death in the family. So I haven't been able to follow up with Mr. Obel with all the details as to our district and how they're handling the different organizations up in Deerfield. But the last that I spoke with the captain up here, Captain Hallstein, he advised that they were moving forward and that he had, I guess, a meeting scheduled with Mr. Obel in the future. And I advised them to please stay on top of that and follow up. I know they had done a couple of things in the past. I think we talked about that in the last meeting, but I will definitely stay on top of that because, what Mr. Obel is doing is very, very important to the community. And I told him that we're on board 100%. So we shouldn't have any problems at all. And that if he did, he'll call me right away. He has my private number. So we will address any concerns he may have.
All right. Mr. Obel?
Madam Chair, we have had some progress and I know apparently there's been some new changes. I haven't got a chance to talk to Colonel Holmes about it. Our clinical director was informed of some new change that's happening over there. And there's been, I would call them missed opportunities and re-education. So there's a couple things that we would look to build on, and I just back in town, so I'll get a chance to speak with Colonel Holmes about those situations.
Have you determined when your next meeting is going to be? I think I'd like to sit in on it if I get the date and time.
I love my frat brother, but I just gotta get him to send one of his people, so we can be good to go. I know Mr. James was very busy, and so I understand schedules are busy there, and so we'll be working together soon there to get that resolved.
Okay. Because we can set up something and we'll go to Deerfield, and that way the captain there can tell us what and solve any glitches that may have arisen. So I'd like for him to be present. So Mr. Obel, can you have your office send out one of the doodle polls as you've done in the past to see the dates and times that people are available?
Yes, and Madam Chair, can I just suggest, hold on a second. sorry about the noise in the background again. Madam Chair, can I just suggest really encourage everybody to respond when we put it out, if everyone can respond rather swiftly, that'll be helpful. I know people's schedule will change and sometimes delay creates more change, and so it's having us to create more dates for you all. So I would like to try to limit that as much as possible.
Okay. If you pick 3 good dates, I'm sure we can try to arrange our schedules. I'll do so. Yeah, the only thing that is if I'm out of town, I'll let you know in advance. But Colonel Holmes, what do you think?
Yeah, sure. I will definitely make it a priority. One of the things I wanted to add for Mr. Obel and for you, Madam Chair, that we are going through some transition in Deerfield Beach. We have some personnel changes there. We're going to have a new lieutenant coming up soon because one of the operations lieutenant is moving to a different district. And one of the personnel that has been very instrumental, one of the sergeants there is transitioning also. He's what you would call it a promotion. He's being moved to a specialized position downtown, supervising some of our detectives, which is a great thing to see. However, the executive officer and the captain there, they're familiar of what our goals are and they know the priority of it. They will be there. I will be there. We'll make sure that things continue to move forward. But there are going to be some changes there, but they shouldn't have a impact on what we're trying to achieve.
And Madam Chair, I will say also that we attended the Night of Crime out in Deerfield in partnership with the team down there. So that we did do. That was one of our community events that we was a vendor at and got a chance to tell more families about what we're trying to achieve in Deerfield.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Is it possible, Assistant Chief London, I'm going to use that new title over and over again, to send a representative to this meeting from Fort Lauderdale, because I'd like to implement something in Fort Lauderdale if we could get that person on board and have them copy what we're doing in the city of Deerfield.
Yes, if Mike will send me the details, I'll make sure we participate.
Okay. Any questions of Colonel Holmes or Mr. Obel?
Madam Chair, one thing
Yes.
for Assistant Chief Holmes, London, I'm sorry, Assistant Chief London. I know there was a gentleman that was here in your absence, who I guess had his, I mean, it's us on here, lack of better terminology, had his own beliefs on certain things. But it would be really nice if we can really get a chance to iron some things out. I know Madam President of the NAACP also requested so looking at some opportunities right here in Fort Lauderdale with some other things that we're doing. And so I want to make sure we are able to iron some things out before we get to the meeting, so we don't have that conversation at the meeting.
Okay. Well, you and Colonel Holmes, whatever the glitches were, if you all can meet, even, Zoom or phone and iron those out. And then when we have the main meeting where I'm in attendance and there's representatives from the other stakeholders there, they won't have to hear that.
Yep, I'm board.
Okay.
No problem. I will definitely make myself available. Very, very important that we definitely move forward with this.
All right. But in the meantime, I still would like to, before the year ends, to get in a room and talk about what the experiment is in Deerfield and see if we can get Fort Lauderdale, hopefully by the beginning of the year, to engage in that type of experiment in the heart of Fort Lauderdale. It's absolutely needed there too. So we'll still invite you, Assistant Chief, or your designee, somebody that you trust that can speak for your department, and maybe even engage. If I ask, can you do this? If they can say yes, rather than I'll have to go back and check, because that's just a seat warmer, and I really would like some people that can move and shake things. So
That's not gonna happen. It doesn't work like that.
I will participate personally, and then if
excellent,
I can bring other people to the table, I'll bring them on as secondary support.
excellent. Prayer does change things. All right. Any questions of Colonel Holmes or Assistant Chief London? All right, we're going to move on to the School Disciplinary Committee report. Our Secretary, Madam President of the NAACP, Ellison, that the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to say, first of all, that staff did not include me on the email, as others were requested to be on there as well. Thankfully, I did get a call from Mr. Weeks. And he had an opportunity to review the data from last year. The one thing, obviously, it was like it was before, we started Promise. And then the people were saying, oh, we're right back where we were, Promise is not working. That Promise that exists now is not Promise that we started out, the original version or the updated version. That is what the current, or should I say the immediate past administrators, and many of them are the same, they just have a different superintendent now, came up with. So what they're evaluating now is not what we worked on for that length of time. I did notice that there were a lot of, there were several other, not a lot, but there were several police departments. But for those, Judge, it was before your time, but one of the things we did was we worked with the two largest police departments. Not realizing that there's so much, for lack of a better word, jealousy with the other police departments. They resent they're not BSO, or they resent that people look at Fort Lauderdale as Fort Lauderdale, and and that's still going on. So there was some finger pointing when it talked about the implementation of Promise within the schools, the role of the SROs that was going in. So we are definitely in a interesting space. But it goes back more than likely, as of now, there is nothing in place and that's ready to take Promise, to those eligible kids. So more than likely, the powers that be will vote to eliminate Promise being mandatory. And then if you feel like you want to do something, they will still have the Promise site available, but it's not something that it's going to be have to do it. And then there was the district, the superintendent and the deputy, whoever they are, the senior staff is confused about civil citation. They're being pushed to eliminate Promise because Promise, the district created a policy, it's not statute, a policy that says Promise eligible incidents have to be entered in JJIS as a civil citation. So one of the parents asked, so when if you all vote to eliminate Promise, does that kill the civil citation? And staff, superintendents, people said yes, but that's incorrect. So before Mr. Weeks or either I could say anything, the BSO representative said that's not true. An officer can give a civil citation, and they will, I'm sure. Now, so if that is, there was that and a lot of other, still the Douglas being blamed for the incidents. So the answer to everybody's problem is to eliminate Promise, arrest, suspend, expel these children. The data, their own data shows is primarily Black children, which is where we were 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10, and back today. We did get the board to delay, but it only delayed until October 17th. There was obviously not enough time to come up with an alternative, but I think that the new appointees, governor's appointees, came on with one of their mission was to eliminate Promise. And obviously you still have people, you had the Moms of Liberty, You had some plants from the other side in there, really bringing up lies about blaming things on Nicholas Cruz. So that's then refuse to hear anything different. You have one of the officers said, well, Fort Lauderdale is going to arrest anybody. They're going to be still doing the whole thing. I haven't seen that. I do know. And I wanted to say that I appreciate Chief London saying what he's saying, that he's going to work until, he can and do what he can do while he's there. And y'all know there's getting ready to be a new chief up there. If I've seen and heard of some of the people that have applied, if they go from inside and take some of those candidates that they deem to be top candidates, we are going to go back. Fort Lauderdale Police Department will move back 30 years because they have some, very different beliefs. And it's going to be some bad stuff happening for the Black community within the city of Fort Lauderdale. They are alleging that it is a national search. The city manager does not want to include anybody from the public. He wants to do it himself. We will have, something to say about that whole process, but Chief London will do what he can while he's there. If you get it's a top-down organization. If you get a chief, and it's not just Fort Lauderdale, he's just here, we're talking about that. If Sunrise picks the wrong person or picks a person that believes differently, Plantation, all that, then we could be facing this whole, backlash on children in these cities. So we have to be mindful. Yes, we make the ask. Yes, we try to duplicate what SO has done, but there are other departments who have a real resentment for BSO simply because they're BSO. Now, that obviously shouldn't have anything to do with me, except we're the ones that are being caught in the middle. I did see, we were talking about the officers, their ability to do whatever they do once they've been called, which was obviously never taken away. I listened to a former Fort Lauderdale police officer said something to the effect, well, if they call me, they just can't be calling me for nothing. I'm going to do something. Very disappointing. Hopefully he can just make his money and go home, because that, he's with the school board police now. School board is, I think, some of the cops tell me they're like retired on duty. So they've retired from before. They can go and make a very decent salary and still don't do a whole lot of police work that's there, but they still have the ability to really impact children's lives. So we're gonna have to circle back, be very data driven when it comes to who is issuing the civil citation, who is going to arrest these children. There'll probably be other schools that are going to be joining the Coconut Creek, Sunrise, Plantation as we go on with these new police chiefs. We do need to meet with the other, there were some other new police chiefs that we haven't had the opportunity to meet with. Perhaps we should, to figure out what their philosophy is, but it's going to go back to increase arrests in schools with nobody saying anything, because now they don't have, or they won't have to do promise very soon. And then monitoring civil citation within the schools, because when it comes to Black children, more often than not, there's just one answer. And I know that there is people who were not there are saying, no, they said they were going. The people who said that are gone for the most part. And we have a lot of new chiefs and a lot of people who believe differently, that the one answer for children who are on the east side in particular is handcuffs. And that has been proven that is not the answer. Mr. Weeks, if you would share what some of the data showed prior to my arrival, I'd appreciate that, sir.
Madam Chair, if I may.
You may.
I was happy to see that the superintendent and the assistant superintendent have a very, very strong grasp of the issues that they're going to be confronting. And their staff seems to have a very strong grasp as well. But I was very alarmed at some of the questioning that was coming from the audience that was present, that were there to help try to shape out what promise will look like in the future. It still seems to be a lack of understanding of how we got here, what caused us to get to the point where we're trying to formalize a process so all children could be treated the same throughout the district. And that this was only designed to address those very minor acts of this misconduct within the school system. It was not designed, or is it intended to address violent issues with guns and things of that sort in school. So the fact that we still are confused about what we're trying to address is problematic. But nonetheless, we're 10 years removed, 10 years plus removed from when this thing really initially started. And it's startling how the data is exactly the same. You know, it's still Black and brown children primarily being removed from the schools or issued promise eligible offenses. And it's still schools of color that are predominantly minorities, schools that are primarily populated with minority students that are using promise at a higher level. The question that I posed to the panel was, compare those high use schools to the largest school in Broward County. And the largest school in Broward County has approximately 3,000 plus children there, almost 4,000 children there. And when you compare the highest uses promise school to the largest school in Broward County, the largest school in Broward County pales in comparison to the usage. That raises two questions from a statistician standpoint. Either they are really good at resolving issues within their schools, and there are no issues occurring in these large populations, or they're not capturing the data. And the issues are still occurring, they're just not capturing the data. And what we learned through this process some 10 years ago, that is oftentimes the latter. The issues are occurring in all schools. The question becomes, how do different schools address those issues? And that's why Promise was created, because if you were in a certain school in a predominantly affluent community, you got Promise. It just was off the books. It was call your mother, call your father, and you dealt with it internally through a conversation, and you dealt with the child's behavior. No one was ever arrested. No one was ever put into JGIS. There was ever civil citation ever issued, and the behavior was addressed. So Promise was designed to formalize that process to make sure all children receive that same type of deference if it was a minor instance of misconduct. So we're back to where we started, Judge. It was surprising walking into that room, hearing the same exact conversations, the same exact questioning, the same exact realizations of where we at in Broward County, with a overcurrent of threats coming from outside of this community for us to get rid of this program that we recognize is impacted and helped thousands of children. So luckily we have Madam President with the NAACP, who was at this for very, very long before I, as a historian. And luckily we have a few other people that were in that room that remember what caused us to be here. Because remember, we've gone through 4 superintendents since the Madam President started asking these questions. And with 4 superintendents, that's a lot of administrators that have changed, a lot of principals that have changed, and a lot of history gets lost as to why you're even doing this. So it's important to keep that history. That's why it's important to have these folks in our community that are advocating on behalf of these issues to be present, because we know sometimes leadership changes. And when leadership changes, they can put a great program out to pasture and it would die on the vine. And that's what we don't want to see happen, I promise. So I was happy to see the level of commitment from the superintendent and the staff, but I was also very shaken by having to feel like Groundhog Day that we're doing this all over again, that we haven't learned any lessons from the past about what we're doing. So the data will speak. You can't run from the data. it is what it is, and the data will guide whatever decisions they're going to make moving forward. And we're data driven. We're going to keep asking the right questions and keep raising the issue. And hopefully, folks will have to recognize that all communities, all schools, all children in Broward County should be treated the same when it comes to minor instances of misconduct. And just like all of us as adults that have had the grace to allow us to mature and to move into positions of authority and try to affect change, we want our children to have that same grace and same opportunity, especially if they just do something silly that can be addressed through maturation or some redirection. So there's positive and there were negatives take away from that meeting, but the most important positive is that we're never going to give up. We're never going to run away. We're never going to leave this issue to die. And we're going to be there until the very end, whether it's this superintendent, the next superintendent, or the superintendent thereafter. We're not going anywhere. So I appreciate the conversation and the monitoring of this issue.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to add that one of the part of the plans that they had spoke about mental health. And for example, the district left $9 million designated for mental health went unused last year. $9 million. Those and if you know, coming out of COVID, we need it anyway, but very much so coming out of COVID. And so they have a plan. The district says they have a plan for Baker Acts. However, so I said, well, is that Baker Act information only if children were Baker Acted from the school? Because if they're Baker Acted from any place else, the court or the or DJJ system or home, and they still don't get the information, the kid comes back to school and still has an issue, may very well want to hurt himself or herself or someone else as well. The systems still aren't talking. And they did mention that they're in the process of updating their information sharing agreement with DJJ. And hopefully they can add that in. They kept passing it around from Ms. Washington to Ms. Hudge and Mr. Hepburn, but somebody has to make a stand to see if you're really going to be involved in what's going on, that there has to be a way to connect the care for these children once they are having, these crises. And quite frankly, they're not there yet. And, they're saying they don't have any idea, even though many of them have information sharing agreements with, with law enforcement agency, although I know that's a chore every year with the police departments. But there has to be a better way of dealing with the children, connecting them to care. But the people that are there may be okay, but they have no clue as to what has been happening. And they're exaggerating. For example, if a school reported a large number of fights, so they were doing promise and you had a large number, the principal, what was promised was to the principal was, rather than being mocked or ridiculed or punished because your school had a large number of fights, for example, they would then say, oh, well, Port Anderson has a large number of fights. Let's bring in some resources to figure out what's going on. At one point, it was the kids of Haitian descent that were arguing with the kids of Caribbean descent. And they don't even know what that means. They just, it's Haitian Flag Day and people acting a fool. But they were agreed to actually go in and see, this provide resources, rather than seeing them on the chart saying, well, this means you can't control your school, and so you're doing a bad job. That's not what was supposed to happen. And the district has not delivered on their promise to bring resources into schools who have, wherever it was a middle school over in Fort Lauderdale that had issues with people fighting, but it was, within the Hispanic community, Latino community. You had, the Nicaraguan kids, and so on. So it was just foolishness, but they needed resources to go in to deal with it rather than, suspend or that sort of thing. So the district has to do a better job at delivering services to each one of the schools. And if you can't, obviously they got the money. That's $9 million left over from last year. They don't give it all away for raises, to be a resource for those folks. So maybe they can't do the service themselves, but they should be able to refer them out with all the partnerships they have. so that those families will know where to go and where to turn to, other than simply just law enforcement. So that's not a good report, but it's an accurate one, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Let me ask this, and then I'll open the floor for any further questions. In their expression or whatever they relayed to you all that they were going to do away with promise, have they offered something in its stead?
That was supposed to be the purpose of the meetings, but promise was developed over a course of a long period of time. So the time that was designated was not nearly going to be enough, particularly since they now have taken us back to day one, where everything was, punish, arrest, suspend, expel, and nothing on the services side. So what promise looks like now is not what promise looked like was, when we first reached the agreement. So to answer your question, the meetings are supposed to be held. There have a series, I think 3 or 4 town hall meetings. I believe one is tonight. I believe in Plantation, there's one, I think on the 19th, that's going to be in Parkway. And then there's another one. It doesn't say promise, but it is. That's part of what's the reason for that, to get a feel about what the community feels about it. So as we stand now, no, they just are going to work on it. But in the meantime, kids are suffering. If I may, just one more thing. I received a call from someone in the district who has a student who had an issue, disruption of school function or something in major in 2021. In 2021, civil citation being attached to promise was not a thing, not a mandatory piece. It was promise may have been entered in JJS, but not as a civil citation. Out goes Runcie, in comes Vicky, and then Vicky says, I just want to save my job, do whatever you want to do with the data. So in 2022, the data from 21 and back to 21 and then forward all got entered into JJIS as civil citations. So there's a young lady who has since graduated. She wants to go to the Army. Everything's going well. The recruiter called her up and said, hey, I did a soft pull and you got a civil citation. So now she is not able to enter into the military to go on with her future because of this civil citation. Judge Holmes had to remind me that the military does have access. And so she's called, the administrator and said, I don't understand. You all told me that I wouldn't have a record if I completed successfully. I did that. Why am I still being punished? And then, think about how many thousands of children have been affected because of a policy, not because of statute, but because of policy that the district put in place that allowed those promise eligible incidences to be put into JJIS. So now, all of these different entities have access, even though it's a civil citation, it's pre-arrest. I mean, I even remember going to a meeting at the state attorney's office where there was a police chief that if someone applied to be a police officer and they had a civil citation, he wouldn't hire them. And so it's a problem that we didn't create, that the district created, quite frankly. And it's hurting children, and predominantly Black and Latino children here. So that's we are going to work out, see if we can work something with the recruiter. Can she get a letter? Can she get references? Any of those things to see if we can assist her with this, moving on with her future. But that's how these things affect our children and the future of our children, the residual effects. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions from I won't even go into the military. I can't tell you how many juveniles who were in the adult court that I withheld adjudication in their cases, and they were able to enlist in the armed services. That's one of the reasons I withheld adjudication in those cases where I could. And now I'm hearing that somebody who has not been arrested, has never been in front of a judge for a matter, got a citation, did a program, and now they cannot enlist. And all the numbers for enlistees are down in this country, and they're turning away people with civil citations. The
And
floor
so,
is
Madam
open.
Chair,
for
if I
questions.
will, if I could, and so when when you have these SROs who are in schools, and since obviously they, as civil citation has reached the school, which was not meant to be something out of school, now that it's become school-based, what can or will you, Colonel, or you, Chief London, do to encourage your officers, rather than arrest or civil citation, to work with the district, if at all possible, to still enter it's a promise program, but not really, meaning that it's not mandatory, rather than be so quick to enter civil citations? Is that something that you all are willing and able to do, now that we know how civil citation is actually affecting the lives of these children?
Well, Madam President, with the sheriff's office, we've been mandating guys to participate in the civil citation program. So there's certain criteria that our deputies have to follow by. And if they don't.
Schools-based only. I'm sorry, I was strictly talking
Oh,
school-based.
okay. So all right. So as far as our SROs, I with the promise program having the issues that they're having now, I think it's important for our SROs to engage and communicate with the school officials at that particular school. Very, very important, because the officers may have a relationship with that student or have background information on that student that may be totally opposite from what the school personnel, the school board personnel going by. A lot of times they may go by what they just see on paper, whereas our SROs may have, background information on that individual. It could be a young kid could be having personal issues at home. Is it their fault that they're having emotional issues because their home life isn't as stable as it should be, or as stable as the kid next to theirs? Those are the little things that our SROs need to pay attention to. And I believe that most SROs do that. And if they aren't doing that, then maybe they shouldn't be SROs. Those are things that we need to monitor. But I think that we in law enforcement, it's important, it's imperative that we go that extra yard. And that's what we look for when we interview our deputies to be SROs. If there's a situation where we can assist that student with any type of intervention or meeting with the state's attorney's office or the judge, whatever, to show that, okay, this particular student is dealing with this. Yes, I know the other side. Yes, they should be afforded an opportunity to clear things up. They shouldn't be subject to an arrest record. They shouldn't be subject to even a civil citation that goes into the system. Those are things that we in law enforcement and our SROs need to step up and to address. On our end here at the sheriff's office, those are things that we bring up each and every year, and we're definitely educating and encouraging our SROs to pay attention to those type of things. Do some slip through the cracks? Yeah. And it's up to us, especially here in command, to fix those problems. If someone doesn't have the credentials and the heart and the knowledge to be an SRO, just because they want to be an SRO, no, that's not going to work in our house. And we are going to change that and address those type of things.
Assistant Chief London?
Yeah, I agree with Colonel Holmes. Additionally, our SROs are instructed and required to let administrative matters that are happening at school be dealt with as administrative matters. If the school can deal with it through one of their protocols, then we're not going to introduce a civil citation to the situation.
Any further questions, Colonel or Assistant Chief? All right. Well, we'll move on, and thank you, Secretary Ellison for attending the disciplinary meeting, even though you weren't noticed for it. So, and Mr. Weeks, thank you for giving her the heads up to be there. Somebody has to be a voice in the room, and so we certainly appreciate your efforts. I know Mr. James sent me an email because he's at the SIM training. That's the sequential intercept model training from DJJ. That he would not be here to give a report. So, Mr. Weeks, anything you can enlighten us on that you're working on, but you can't really report on it yet?
Madam Chair, I would ask the board to allow Mr. James, along with the committee, to report on that issue. They're doing some very sophisticated work, and I don't want to stumble all over it.
I hear you. I hear you. So is there any objection to me tabling that until we get Mr. James, as well as, Ms. Gaynor? Our missed opportunity report is going to be slim today because she's also at the same training from DJJ. So any objection to me tabling the data work group report until our next meeting? All right, so can we unanimously agree on that? I'll take the nodding of the heads. All right, thank you. All right, we talked about civil citations and missed opportunities. Madam Secretary, I don't know if I sent you the email. I got an email late yesterday afternoon, and I've been busy doing some other things. So I'll send it to you. I looked at it today. It's Ms. Gaynor's normal report, but the interpretation, there's no way in the world, because I'll be looking at it and be upset about something. And as Mr. Roosevelt has pointed out, that those things that are listed as batteries, maybe they shouldn't be listed as missed opportunities, because they can't be civil citation or anything like that. But we keep it so that we'll be mindful of those agencies that are not really following the statute, even though it doesn't say you shall issue, but we have an administrative order in this county where the 17th Circuit has agreed that civil citations should be used, signed off on by the chief judge. So I'll let Ms. Gaynor come back. So I'm going to make sure that the secretary gets the email forwarded to her as soon as this meeting is over, and she'll send you the information. And that way you can ask Ms. Gaynor at the next meeting who missed and what. I can't figure out the tables to make sense, so she'll have to come and explain it. So as soon as you get it, review it, and then she'll be ready to report on it. Any objections to waiting until she returns? All right, seeing no hands up, we'll move on. All right, the same for the, they took all of our support people who can talk about these things that we think are so important for this advisory board, and that's the juvenile domestic violence report, where we want to keep tabs on those juveniles that get arrested for fighting their brothers and sisters, or even their parents. We want to keep tabs and see what happens to those children, because we still don't have any respite. So anybody, Mr. Weeks, you will try to work on that. I think you're on a committee working with a circuit judge to get some respite here in Broward County. And for those who are listening, their respite is let's take a break from each other. Kind of like a separation, only it's not permanent, and it gets the services to the children and to the parents. So Mr. Weeks, anything on that Mr. James may have imparted to you?
No, Judge, I need to follow up with the judge that's handling that matter. I had a conversation with him about another matter, but we did not get an update on that. I'll follow up with them on that and report back to the CAB after having that conversation.
All right, so we're moving right along on this agenda. At this time, the formality is I'll start with BSO, but today I'm going to start with Assistant Chief London. How many juveniles do you have in the Fort Lauderdale jail? I'm sorry, what was that? You're on mute. He's signaling to us that he has 0. So, okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Colonel Holmes, can you top that number?
Yeah, yes, unfortunately, yes. But I want to first start by thanking the Juvenile Justice Advisory Board and Madam President for number one, bringing this to our attention, the importance of the civil citation program, and staying on top of it, and making sure that we stay on top of it, and making sure that we're held accountable. Because when it goes from the top down, I think that people pay attention. I know within our agency, our deputies, unlike in the past, they're really paying attention, and they're making sure that when a juvenile is detained, to make sure that all the criteria are met and that we're doing the right thing, because they know they're being held accountable. Because if they make if they have a missed opportunity, they have to explain, articulate why they did what they did. And if there's a violation, they're being held accountable for it the right way. So I'm just saying that because it starts collectively as a group and under the leadership of Madam President, and that we just got to keep our foot on the pedal and not let up. Because once we do that, it goes backwards the way that it was in the past. And we got to save our youth. We got to save our youth and point them in the right direction, lead by example. That aside, I will go into our particular numbers. Right now, we have a total of 13 juveniles that are housed at our Paul Ryan facility. All 13 are males. This past September, they had a family night, which was well received. They had, quite a few family members there, and the juveniles were very, very happy. Also in September, we had a compliance inspection by DJJ, and there were no violations found. So that's a positive thing. All of the juveniles are receiving health, medical, and educational services, and there are no issues noted here at all. So far, hopefully that number goes down, but right now we stand at 13. We had no COVID cases in our entire jail facility. We currently have 1, I was told. That was as of October 4th. There was 1 COVID case. So we're keeping track of that and making sure that everyone's is healthy. Nothing further.
Questions of Assistant Chief London or Colonel Holmes? We forgot the education. That's real big. The juveniles, are they getting the same education or similar, equivalent as the other children get when they're in school? Because when I visited DJJ, the Jack facility, they weren't doing the assignments that the children were doing in school. And that's worrisome, because if they're not given the same assignments when they are released from custody, they are behind, sometimes weeks or months behind. I guess you're the wrong person to ask. We're waiting for Mr. Licata to name someone from his administration to join the CAB board, so that I can ask them those questions. But to your knowledge, are the teachers being let in to the Paul Ryan facility, Colonel Holmes?
Yes, Madam Chair. According to my report, they are receiving all educational and medical services that they normally receive. And there haven't been any complaints at this point.
Like questions of the Colonel or the Assistant Chief? Okay. Mr. Weeks, any update on the new facility? Anything that you've heard? Groundbreaking yet? I'm thinking prospectively. Okay, I got jokes.
We start a new legislative session, I can tell you that much.
All right, well, it was in the budget. Okay,
It's
I'll
in
put
the
it that
budget.
way. But and the budget was signed, right? And the budget was signed, right?
Correct. The money is earmarked, the money's budgeted. There has not yet been any committee that I'm aware of to start having conversations on how that's going to manifest. But I am looking forward to following up on those conversations when I visit up in Tallahassee.
Well, look, I'm a tough person. Not much shakes me, but I didn't like that facility at all. I don't like the smells. And I think because they knew we were coming, the bleach was heavy, pine sol in certain areas. But that's depressing. And it's bad enough to be accused of a crime and not having been convicted of a crime, and then you're put in that type of environment. So we always have to keep reminding it's innocent until proven guilty, and those children have not been proven guilty. So I mean, I was as proactive as I am now when I was on the bench to make sure that nobody's mistreated before that verdict is reached, because they're being housed. So there's a responsibility. And I am mindful, as many prosecutors have said, well, Judge, they're not in a hotel. I understand that. I fully understand that. But, there's just certain environments that lead to depression and all kinds of things happening. So we do need a new facility for the youth. All right. All right. Any questions of Mr. Weeks in terms of the new Jack or?
Madam Chair, can I just
Yes.
ask real quick, if we had a conversation about the judicial court consolidation, if there's any consolidation at all, how would that possibly affect the children in the detention center, whether they would be one or where they would go if there is some type of consolidation of Broward's circuit court?
I think you only hypothesize, but Judge Carlos Rebolo, do you have any, or can you?
Can
you speak to that?
Could a consolidation affect our children? Could they, if we were joined with another county, could some of our children from Broward conceivably be sent to another county if they were all in one, even if they were from Broward?
That's going on right now. We have juveniles that are sent to Miami and Palm Beach. Am I not correct, Colonel Holmes? But it's a different issue from the consolidation thing. The consolidation thing, it's pretty scary, because I think who's ever came up with this, and it was I think it was the last Speaker of the House, I want to say Renner. What they want to do.
A former prosecutor from the 17th Judicial Circuit.
Is he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he appeared before me several times. He was in my division.
You didn't do your job, Judge.
I think I did. He got out of my division.
The plan is to break it down to 6 circuits that pretty much mimic the 6 appellate circuits. And that is crazy, especially for Broward County, because that would mean that we would be the 4th Circuit Court of Appeals in and for Broward, Palm Beach, Martin, Okeechobee, and Indian River counties would all be consolidated. That would be a circuit that would have over close to, if not over 3 million people.
Almost 4 million people.
And the only one that makes out of it, I think, is Miami-Dade, because they're not going to change at all, probably.
Well, there's talk about bringing Monroe to them, because Monroe is only 100,000 people.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but that's not a big, for them, that's not big, but you can't combine.
Well, if you live in Key West, it is.
You can't, the scariest thing is you can't combine Broward and Palm Beach. That's just, to me, undoable. And, I'm sure Mr. Weeks is going to be up there in Tallahassee saying, you folks are crazy, because that would mean he the public defender, his constitutionally elected officer, the state attorney, Mr. Pryor, would have to run in Broward, in Palm Beach, in Martin,
Martin, St. Lucie.
and Okeechobee.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, Mr. Weeks. The only good thing is there's a judge up on the 4th DCA. His name is Connor, Judge Holmes. Do you know Judge Connor at all?
I met Judge Connell.
I like him. I've talked to him a couple of times. He's in charge of the committee that's going to put the report together that's going to.
No, that's Gerber. Gerber is in
I'm
charge.
sorry,
He's
my apologies. My
Gerber.
apologies. Gerber. I like Gerber. I've talked to him a bunch of times and stuff, and he seems like a nice guy, and he seems like he's not coming into this with, prejudices or biases. He's coming into this with an open mind, and let's do our work, put a report together and send it to the legislature.
Well, you
Until
got
that-
somebody right down the hall from you somewhere on the other side. And that's Judge Lee. He's on the committee also.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, so y'all need to get to him in the hallway, talk to him.
Oh, no, he's on our side, and he's retiring, Judge,
Oh, I
did you
didn't know that. Okay, I
Yeah.
have to send him a retirement card.
So that's where it's at, but it's very, very preliminary, fortunately. And I really hope and pray that cooler heads will prevail on this matter. But at the end of the day, it's going to be all up to the legislature, and that's scary.
Mr. Weeks, Mr. Weeks.
Judge, I concur with Judge Robolo. It is very scary. And we've talked about it at our last NAACP meeting. And had some conversations on that for trying to educate the public. But I want to circle back. I have a very, very preliminary report with respect to respite. I can tell you that they had met in October. There seems to be a change of leadership on DCF point person, and that they are going to be meeting again in October, in a couple weeks, the last week of October, and they should have better data moving forward now that they have some leadership clarification from DC.
Are those meetings open to the public?
They're not, they're stakeholder meetings, but I believe they're noticed and all that stuff to meet all the compliances. But they also reported some utilization rates that they would like to be better when it comes to respite. But I would ask us to allow a member of that active community to report in greater detail other than the report that I'm.
Can you put them in touch with me first? Because I don't want somebody that talks to us and takes up time and tells us nothing.
Yes, Judge.
Stevie Wonder used to sing a song. He says, talking loud and saying nothing. So I'm old school.
I have the members of the committee, and I will direct them towards you, Judge. Okay,
great. Thank you. All right. Any questions of Judge Robolo? I think he succinctly put it. I just recently heard about that configuration with the circuits. At first, the conversation was turning on geographical separations. How would you parcel it up? And now the conversation is turning to the configuration of where the 6 DCAs are. And the 6 is close to the 5th and the 2nd. So, they're going to have to do a lot more because they can't put Broward and as Judge Robolo said, that makes no sense to put almost 3 million there. Okay, Broward's almost 2, Palm Beach is over 1 million. So that's your 3 million. And then you got St. Lucie, Martin, and they total up, it's going to be like 4.1 million. So that's the conversation that I had with somebody just last night, as a matter of fact. So I laughed at them when they mentioned that, and I said, that'll never happen. So that's why I didn't call you yet, Madam President, but I think we need to have a town hall meeting on that. And for those who are just listening in, if you think, you heard us talk about circuit consolidation. If you think, it's boring, what are they talking about? There is a move to, it's supposed to be a move to be more efficient and cost effective to put a lot of circuits and counties in a circuit which would be governed by a certain appellate court. Okay, Broward County right now is in the 4th District Court of Appeal, along with 3 other counties, 4 other counties. If they were to do the parceling out and make us all one DCA, as Judge Robolo recapped, that would have, from Broward up to Martin County, and Okeechobee County also, in one judicial circuit. So if you committed a crime allegedly in Hallandale, and if they had no satellites, then you possibly would have to go to Palm Beach County, because that's sort of like the central meeting spot from Broward to Okeechobee. So you'd probably have to go to Palm Beach County, West Palm Beach. They got a nice courthouse, but how you gonna get there? And not everything can be done remotely, because they've been talking about technology. If I want a trial, I want to be in the same room with the people that are trying my case. My life is in their hands. They need to see me live and up in color. So that's going to be an issue. And then your elected representatives, your state attorney, your public defender, even your clerk of courts, they got a campaign in all of those counties. And then how does that affect the sheriff's department? Do you get cross-designated? Do you get so that you can make arrests in every one of those counties that are covered by the 4th DCA? So y'all start thinking about it. But to the people who are listening, the Constitution of this state mandates that you have access to the courts, and it has to be meaningful access. That's why right now in Broward County, we have what are called satellite courthouses. You can't get to the central courthouse, and you committed a crime in Hollywood. There's a satellite courthouse in Hollywood, and it's there unless you ask for a trial by jury. All jury trials are central. But if you have a misdemeanor and it occurred south, it is in Hollywood, we don't expect you to have to travel all the way to the central courthouse. There's a courthouse, a satellite courthouse near the Broward Mall. That's the West Satellite Courthouse. There's a courthouse in Deerfield Beach. That's the North Regional Courthouse. So, think about it, and the inconvenience to you trying to get due process. That is your day and your say in court. So we'll keep you posted. That's an excellent question, Madam Secretary. Think about it, Colonel Holmes, your deputies, y'all will be broken up into satellites too. And it's not going to be Broward Sheriff's Office. It may be the 4th District Regional Metropolitan Police or something like that. Yeah, I don't know how that works. And it will affect your money, because you would need less officers, because they will blend them all in. So those who retire, they won't replace. And the same with judges. Trust me, nobody will be left untouched. So the 90 judges that you all have in Broward County may not be, if it's consolidated, you won't need 90 judges concentrated here in Broward. So they'll start getting rid of people. And then you'll start getting people that you don't know and you don't like on the bench, sitting on your case. And for those who are biblically inclined, the Bible says, know them that labor among you. So please keep your ears and eyes open so that you will hear more about consolidation of the circuits, because it is important to you. Any questions? All right. No questions. Is there a legislative update other
Madam
than the session
Chair,
starts?
I do have a question to pose, because you did raise the point. How would that impact DJJ? DJJ is a statewide system. They have a statewide detention center system. That means that Broward County Detention Center is actually Broward County Regional Detention Center. Same thing as Miami-Dade Regional Detention Center. There's a Fort Myers Detention Center. There's a West Palm Detention Center. But not every community will need a detention center. We don't know what this will look like in the end, because they say bigger is better. It doesn't always work that way with the court system. Bigger is not always better. Sometimes smaller, so you can have more intimate contact with the people, is better. And if you start to regionalize things and spread things out, maybe the detention center moves. No one knows what this is going to look like, and that is the scary part of it. And those are the unknown questions. Until we have some guidance, we can't even plan or address or point out issues. We can theorize the issues, but we have no really concrete plan. So with respect to DJJ, the detention center that was funded for Broward County, we really don't know what that's going to look
You
like.
may not get it
We
because,
don't know what the circuit's going to look like.
we don't know what the region, yeah. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, keep your ears and eyes open and pay attention. Everybody that's saying that they're doing this is for you, you got to count up the cost. But I will state that they have already started counting the cost. Meg Steinbeck leads that committee as to how much it will cost to you to make the Mr. Renner's letter a reality. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. Oh, and I was asked if you need a constitutional amendment. Well, the legislature has already been empowered years ago to review circuits. That's a part of their legislative mandate. So that kind of slipped by us. And so when you read it, you say, well, okay, they're not going to need it. Yeah, everything's been planned out in the future. There's always a future use for legislation. And they are utilizing everything that they got passed years ago is now being brought forward. So keep your eyes and ears open for consolidation. And did I mention the state attorney and state attorney's office? It impacts every constitution. The only person that I don't think will be impacted is Mr. Care at the property appraiser's office. You got to have that. And then the revenue collector, okay, they will stay put. But every other constitutional office is going to be touched by consolidation. All right. We talked about anything else, any juvenile legislation that I haven't seen anything concrete. I know there's something in the pipe, but I was going to get with Dr. Osgood to find out if they had a packet, and if not, I'll call Ms. Knowles to see if there's a packet, a legislative packet. But they are having some hearings, some sessions here in Broward, the legislative delegation. So, and then I was asked by Mr. Gottlieb, Madam Secretary, he says he doesn't hear from you. If you have some legislative issues that you want brought to the front, please contact him. He's ready and willing to work with the NAACP.
Is that right? Okay. Thank you for sharing.
I'm just a messenger. And I didn't bring my suit of armor. Okay. All right. I don't have a report from Mr. Bush. It's normally given to us in writing, but he's attending the SEM, so I'll give him a pass on that. Is there anything for the good of the order, anything that we need to discuss and bring on the table so we can start working on things? I think our report is due shortly, Madam Secretary. I'll report to the Secretary of DJJ. I don't know if he's going to be happy with our suggestions, because that's what we're here to do. I'm not happy about the reporting in JIS of just non-criminal things. The same way you get a non-criminal traffic infraction, that gets in the computer, but it doesn't count against your license. You get no points. But it seems that points are given for our kids who are anybody involved in the JIS system. They get the points. So that's concerning to me. All right. Anything else? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is November 8th, 2023. November 8th. Please put that on your calendars, November 8th. It's well before Thanksgiving, Assistant Chief. So you don't have to worry about, you're not gonna miss.
He'll put up his,
turkey.
he gonna sign on and put in his fake picture.
Yeah, they put
We
that
will-
picture up. And I actually thought it was him until it didn't move.
I have to update that picture now.
I love it. I love it. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move adjournment, Madam Chair.
All right. Any
Second,
objections? All right, I accept it. The second has been made. You all have a good rest of the week, and I'll be in touch, Colonel Holmes, and if you and Miss Obel need my assistance in anything, I'm gonna stay close to home for the rest of the year, starting at the end
Same
of
with
this.
me. Same with
All
me.
right.
I'll be
All right,
home.
take care now. And sorry about your loss.
Yes.
I do.
You know, my all love you.
My
Hmm?
condolences,
My
Colonel.
mother-in-law love you.
Oh, my gracious. Thank you. I gotta see your family again. It's been years.
Yeah, she remembered the years working with you down at the Dade State's Attorney's Office.
Yeah, yeah.
You were
She
the
remembered.
best.
And she remembered me for something good, just
Yeah.
for the record. Judge Wabolo, all well?
Everything's good, Judge.
Okay, and happy Hispanic History Month. It's about to end.
It is.
But
Thank you, Judge.
I've eaten a lot of tortillas. Matter of fact, I had tortillas this afternoon.
Congratulations again, Chief Holmes, Chief London.
Chief London, Assistant
London.
Chief London. I'm proud of him. Madam President, we need to ride by there and have coffee with a cop. Is that what y'all call it?
We
I
don't
wanna
know
be
where
seen
they
with
got them
this.
spread all over the place. We don't know where they are. He's in hiding. He's in witness protection. They don't know. They're everywhere.
I see the bunker that he's in.
We're in the Kaplan building up off of Cypress Creek, 1515 West Cypress Creek.
All right,
Very
I'll
nice.
come by there and
Okay.
use your name. Don't try to hide out from me.
Yeah, we're
Very
coming up here and
nice.
have coffee with a cop. Okay, we're doing
Thank you.
that.